Hey guys, Jaggers here in Smite Tactics once again, and it is patch week. So today I'm going to be going through the patch changes, the new features, and discussing my thoughts and feelings on them. So just some quick stuff that I want to quickly show you. We have ranked now, so you can duke it out amongst the best or worst of them, depending on your MMR. They've added this new feature to the Egyptian map set, which is called like urns. So basically on some of the maps you'll have these urns and you can kill them, and inside the urns you gain a card. So there's a mana potion, which you guys know what it does. Then there's the urn of health, which gives a friendly +2 health, and the urn of attack, which gives a non-leader friendly +1 attack. So you could choose to attack the urns rather than your opponent, or if there's nothing to attack, to try and gain a benefit in later rounds. We also have some new music. There's been a little bit more UI polish in terms of like the display, but yeah, that's kind of it for the basic stuff. We're then going to jump on to the balance changes. So we'll go through the balance changes, and then we will talk about the Chinese Pantheon, which is the new Pantheon that's come out. So, balance changes. Now, first and foremost, they've made changes to the way that divinity works. So divinity is this effect you get here, triggers whenever a friendly god spawns. However, they've now made it so it also triggers when a god is used to heal a god already in play. And I haven't actually tested this feature out, but my understanding of it is that if you have a divinity unit, then what you can do is if Aphrodite is linked to something and that unit heals, that then also triggers a divinity effect, is my understanding of the wording of that. I mean, if anyone knows otherwise, let me know if I'm wrong. I mean, Aphrodite is your only current healing god in this game, other than Ra. So I guess if Ra minion recruiters a divinity minion and then heals, then that'll trigger the divinity effect. So I'm wondering then if Ra minion recruiters a divinity minion, and then his heals in a square of like 4. If you heal 4 units in a square, does that cause divinity to trigger 4 times? This is going to be a very interesting mechanic, and it does, make the Greek Pantheon a little bit more powerful, so I'm fine with it. Next, we have a very boring change. Fire Shards is now called Annihilation, and this is because in Smite, Nuwa, who's the leader of the Chinese, has an ability called Fire Shards, so, it wouldn't make sense the Chinese leader, god, whatever, one of her spells being in Egyptian, so they changed its name. On top of that, we've seen Banish, which is a Norse card, be reduced in cost from 4 to 3. I mean, it does hit a target area, so you can hit multiple units, but I'm still not convinced you'd run this card. Like, why would you run this card when you can run Freya and just always have Banish, if you need it? Whereas this you have to draw, it costs a little bit more. I mean, it's multi-target, but it's still, I think, a little too situational for my liking. Then, if we go to neutral cards, the Bull Demon King, wherever he may be, has his damage increased. So he is now a 3/5 rather than a 2/5. And I think this is starting to bring him in line with his, his rarity status. And the fact that he cleaves, this is definitely a target to deal with. But that one extra damage is really going to make him quite impactful, because there's a lot of units that have, 2, 3 health. And if you sunder something down to 3 from 5, then, he can clear it, which is nice. So I think, we could see some more Bull Demon King play. On top of that, Kang now has an extra damage. So he was a 4/4. Now he is a 5/4, which I like. I mean, I think Kang is quite good anyway. He's immune to ranged, but he can be targeted by abilities. So he's a little bit situational, and it depends what your opponent is running. But I like him as a card. I think he's relatively strong. The only thing is, like with minion recruiter and stuff, some people are like refraining from running strong minions. So that could kind of stop that. Elder Harpy has had its movement increased. So Elder Harpy used to be a 3/3, and then they put it down to a 3/2. And the thing is, there's so many easy ways of clearing 2 health that she kind of just stopped being played. And the thing is, like, whenever anyone Elder Harpies me and I can't clear it, because she only had the tomb ability, you can just run away and she can't get close enough to hit things. So, I don't know. I think the mobility change is nice, but I'm not convinced, in higher levels of play, you'll actually see her that much. Then we have Fire Imp, wherever Fire Imp is, here he is. He now only has tomb ability. And I mean, in previous videos, you'll have seen me explain how I think Fire Imp and Sunder are basically, in some ways, the same card, just one is more situational. And this tomb ability is going to allow for a little bit more tactical play and positioning, so your opponent can try and position, units he doesn't want attacked or further back, and the Fire Imp is, it's a little bit trickier to get to them. But considering you can move your leader, spawn the Fire Imp, and then move the Fire Imp, I still think, you're going to see a lot of Fire Imp used to clear unwanted minions and what have you. Then we have Shell. Shell has reduced cost. It's now cost 1. Give all friendlies in target area shield 1 until the next turn. And I actually think this is quite a nice item. And I think it's actually going to see some synergy in potentially the Chinese decks, which we'll go over as to why. But basically, items in Chinese decks are quite useful, and this also protecting units. I feel like, you know, you could see some kind of rush control hybrid decks, which hopefully I'll cover in future videos. I've got a rush control beginner Chinese deck I'm going to show you guys in the future. And last but not least, Geb. He can now target himself with his ability. So give a friendly +0/+2 and remove all crowd control effects from him. Geb, it turns out, is friendly with himself. He's friendly with himself, guys. Bear in mind, he can't use this ability if he is CC'd. So in some ways, you might want to CC Geb instead of, you know, other units. But no, this makes sense to me. It doesn't seem like a bad change. Most of the time, I think I would use the ability on other people because, you know, he can only use the ability every other turn. So getting the ability out, you know, if you give him +2 health, you're maybe just delaying the inevitable. But yeah, that's it for balance changes. Right, let's get to the good stuff, the juicy, and that is the Chinese Pantheon. Right, settle down, kids. It's going to be a long one. Okay, so this is the Chinese Pantheon. And I think as of right now, we have, what, 16 and 4, 20 cards. We've got 20 Chinese cards. In comparison to other Pantheons, we have, you know, a lot more Egyptian. We have only 23 Greek, and Norse has 24. Okay, so it's a little bit lacking, but it's still, you know, for a Pantheon launch, it's really cool. You've got your leader, Nuwa, and she can stealth friendly units in a target area, and this is a 1/2, so you can stealth 2 units. And I've had a few bugs with this card because I have no idea how much mana it costs, and I assumed it would cost 2, but it keeps not letting me use it when I had 2 mana, and then it wasn't letting me use it when I had 3 mana. So I don't know, but I think this is a very powerful ability because you're stalling, and this synergizes so well with this new Colossal description. Colossal gain X at the end of a turn. So in this situation, give a non-leader friendly Colossal +1. So at the end of the turn, or the start of your next turn, sorry, the unit would gain damage. And if you can combine that with Stealth, which stops them from being targetable until the next turn, then you know you're guaranteeing this Colossal effect and your units are starting to get stronger. So I actually think Nuwa, her ability synergizes really well with the Chinese Pantheon, which is obviously intended. And I'm looking forward to seeing, I think they're adding Guan in the future, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out. Okay, so we've seen Colossal. We also have this new ability, Command. And Command happens whenever a friendly item is played. And this is why I was talking to you guys about, you know, Shell maybe being more popular. Because, so whenever an item is played, this unit will get movement and attack, for example. This is a 2/2 unit. And this is one of the basic cards. So that's Colossal and that's Command. Now that we know what they are, I'm going to kind of go through the cards one by one, and we'll talk about how, you know, good or bad I think they are. So Crescent Blade is a 0 cost, deal 1 damage to a non-leader enemy. And this is kind of like, you know, 1 less damage, 1 less cost Sunder. Except that, like, you know, you can also then synergize it with some of your later command effects. So actually I think this is, you know, a nice card. And this is what I mean about these kind of control rush strategies where you can use cards to clear whilst also getting minions on the board. I think it's an alright card to include, especially, you know, if you want more clear. You know, if you don't want to run Fire Imp because he's not an item, you could run Crescent Blade and Sunder, and they're both items, and then get lots of command triggers, which is nice. Give a friendly immune items and abilities until your next turn. So this is, again, an item, so then you can use it to trigger those command effects. And this is something I actually figured would be kind of huge with Kang, because Kang is immune to range, but he can be hit by abilities. So you can then use this to stall out them dealing any sort of damage to Kang. On top of that, you can use this if you've maybe put a unit in the back line to stall out the damage to allow maybe their Colossal effect to trigger. So you could use this to protect a Colossal unit whilst triggering the effect of a command unit. And I think Celestial Guard is a pretty good card. Jade Boon, I think, is more situational. Give a non-leader friendly Colossal. So you're turning a unit into Colossal and upping their damage. It's not bad, you know, it's just +1 damage for 1 cost, so it's pretty good. But that damage does start to scale, so the longer that unit is on the board, you know, the better it's going to be. And again, like, if you're going for more kind of mid to late game strategies, Jade Boon could definitely be very good. Then we have, what is this? I'm going to right click it so you can see it better. Manifold Blade. Deal 1 damage. This item gains +1 damage for every friendly with Colossal in play. So this is something that you, I guess, would put into a Colossal deck. So the more Colossal units you have out, the more damage this card deals. And you can kind of see what I mean about the control strategies coming into Chinese. Whoops, let's go back. Saying that, I mean, I haven't really had a look at, you know, how many Colossal units there are and how easy they are to play. From the looks of things here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4? and then applying. So it could definitely see play in maybe a Colossal deck, but not something I know too much about. Okay, then we've got Imperial Soldier. Let's look at them like this. This is fun. Command, +1 movement and +1 attack. This is just a, I mean, it's an air card. It's a 2-cost 2/2. And it gets better as you play items. It's kind of, you know, it reminds me of Calder, because he's a 2-cost 2/2 as well. And then with him, it's the Skadi synergy. With this, it's the movement synergy. But with only 2 health, you know, I can't see them lasting long enough that the command effect is going to be super useful. But it's an alright filler card, you know, if you don't have a big collection. Also, it looks completely different from the temporary art. This is a woman. This is, I mean, is bearded lady? I don't know. Hi-Rez Bliss. Okay, Transfusion. Set target non-leader's attack equal to its health. I'm wondering if you can use this on enemies. This is the question. Because if there's something with high attack, low health, you could maybe bring the attack down. But, I mean, I guess the idea is that you have a unit that has low attack and high health, like Chang'e. Actually, that's probably where you would want to use it, right? So if we go back and look at Chang'e, she's a 0/5. So if we use Transfusion and set her attack equal to her health, she actually becomes a 5/5, which is, you know, pretty nasty. And I think if you're running Transfusion, like if you're running a Chang'e Hui deck, which we'll get onto in a minute, then Transfusion is actually a really nice option in there to get her damage up and just be like, surprise, Chang'e's really lethal. You thought she was a support. Oh, you silly goose. Okay, moving on. You know, White Tiger is just a kind of default colossal unit. This is a griffin. I love the temporary art. It's just silly. Look at his tattoos. Ooh la la. You know, he gets stronger as time goes on. He gets more health. And I guess maybe you could use the Transfusion card if enough turns passed that he got more health. But because, again, he's so easy to clear, I'm not convinced that this trait is going to trigger often enough unless you can, you know, protect them with shield or shell or whatever. So that's that. Okay, then we have Chang'e. This is the only free god, and this kind of annoys me because her ability synergizes if you have Hui in play, and Hui is a epic god in terms of rarity. So he's an expensive card, whereas she's free, and it just seems a bit like, you know, stinky by Hi-Rez. I think they should have, I don't know, maybe made him free, or maybe, I don't know, done something. Like, it annoys me that there's only one god you can get. So for beginner decks, you know, running gods isn't really the smartest move ever. Anyway, so she is ranged. She's ranged, right? So then if you use a Transfusion and she has 5 damage, she's a 5/5 ranged unit. That's nasty. That's nasty. On top of that, you can use your ability to heal adjacent friendlies for 2 health. Then if Hui is on the board, you also deal 2 damage. So that's like basically like a Bull Demon attack, except that you don't take retaliation damage. So his attack cleaves, that's kind of what that does. And I think we're going to see some interesting Transfusion Chang'e Hui decks. I think that's something that we'll definitely see people try out. Emperor's Prize. Draw a card for every friendly in play. Like, they have a few of these, you know, do this for every friendly in play, and I'm not really feeling it, personally. Like, card draw is really nice, but this is 3 cost, and you have to get a lot of units out for that to really be that useful. In my personal opinion, like, I don't know. I think, like, if you need draw that badly, like, I guess it's good, but you have to have a lot of units out. So you've already played a load of cards, and then you're trying to draw, and I don't know. I'm not thinking Emperor's Prize is going to be that hot. Here we have the Imperial Archer in all of his glory. So this is the card. You'll get one of these for free if you complete the Chinese campaign. So if you complete a Pantheons campaign, you get 1 free blue card. And for China, it is this Imperial Archer. And he is really, really good. Like, I love him. Because of the command, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. So, like, let's dump down the Imperial Archer. And then on the next turn, you know, or even on the same turn. Because commands, they trigger when an item happens. So, you know, you don't have to wait for the unit to no longer be fatigued. Then you can Sunder something, and then, you know, if you use Sunder, that does 2 damage, and then we get another damage. And you can start maybe chaining, you know, items together, and also using this to deal damage. So then you're clearing the minions, which I think is a really nice early game strategy to get control of the board, and also to deal damage. And I like Imperial Archer. I think he's a good card. Next up, we have Imperial Guard. Command, +1 and /+0 and pardon until the end of next turn. So he gets +1 damage and doesn't take retaliation damage until the end of his next turn for each item. And I like this card too. I think, you know, you need him to survive 1 turn, but then once you've got that, you can start playing items, and he can start basically beating things to death. Alternatively, you know, you could play this and then play Charge, and Charge is an item, so then that turns him into a 4/3 with Pardon that can attack on that turn. So there's like I said, there's some really cool item synergies here. And I think like making a kind of minion item rush deck is something that's going to be happening. Keep an eye on this channel. We'll have, you know, my beginner rush control deck going up tomorrow, and then we'll probably have some more advanced stuff in the future with the Chinese Pantheon if you're interested in decks. But I like it. I really like these new features. Projection. Well, you know when like you're feeling really sad about something, but then you're actually, you know, pushing those feelings onto someone else. That's what projection. No, we're not talking about actual projection. The card projection. Select a friendly god or minion and deal its attack as direct damage to a non-leader enemy. So do you remember when I said? Do you remember when I said about clear and control? This is, you know, another card that works really nicely with this. You pick a unit, and you deal its attack as direct damage, so this is then used to clear. So this is like a 3-cost Sunder. But it's also an item, so then it also triggers command effects. And I'm wondering, you know, if I used command, or if I used, sorry, projection on the Imperial Guard, the command effect gives him +1 damage. So will this deal 3 damage, or will it deal 4 damage? These are the kind of synergies that we have to ask ourselves about as we continue looking through the Pantheon. Next we have Rushing Thunder, 3 cost, deal 1 damage to all enemies. Again, it's an item, you know, you can see it synergizing with the Archer dude, so then you can run this, and it's a nice little bit of clear, especially against Norse Rush, which tends to have a lot of small 1 health damage, 1 health units. Again, I could see it like in an early game Rush control deck. Evolve, spawn a random friendly with Colossal. So I'm wondering if this means that the friendly that you spawn has Colossal applied to it, or whether this means that the random friendly has to be of the Colossal pool. So if we look through, you know, the Colossal cards previously, whether it target plays one of those, or whether, you know, you could get, for example, an Imperial Archer and then it also puts Colossal on it. But I don't think it would put Colossal on it because it would say what the Colossal it puts on it does. And it, so I guess this just gives you a Colossal unit, and that does include Ao Kuang. So, you know, there's some nice RNGs in there, I guess. Equally, though, you know, you could pay 4 and get a White Tiger. So, who knows? Anyway, Hu Yi. So Hu Yi synergizes with Chang'e. Here he is in all his topless glory. Deal 2 damage to a target enemy and a random adjacent enemy. So he hits something and then also hits something adjacent. And then if Chang'e is out, then it hits a 3rd target. So it's like his crazy bouncing shots, which is, you know, part of Smite. He basically has a ricochet shot in the game. So it's nice that they kind of incorporated that into his kit. I mean, he's a 3/3, so he's a little weak for 4 cost. But, you know, with the synergy with Chang'e, that's why his cost is higher. And then, you know, if you're getting the damage off of Chang'e, because, like, you could play Chang'e first turn, well, not first turn, but earlier, and then on the next turn, play Hu Yi, and suddenly your Chang'e is dealing damage. And then your opponent has to deal with one of them, because, you know, they buff each other. So it's then forcing your opponent to kind of deal with something. And I think it'll be fun. I'm definitely interested to, you know, play around with it and see how things work out. Then we have Oogway. Oogway is a really nice card. He is a 4/3, but every turn gains 1 damage and 1 health. So he's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and, like, you know, if you can protect him for a couple turns, you know, suddenly you have like a 6/5 or something. And it's another card that your opponent has to kind of focus down because it's going to be a problem. But that seems to be the case with all of Chinese's cards. Like, all of the cards they have to deal with because it's going to be a problem. So, you know, how are they going to hit you in the face? He also looks pretty cool. So he's got that going for him. And yeah, I think this is a pretty good mid-range card. Stone Guardian is disgusting if you can't clear it. Stone Guardian is a 3/3. And then every round his range gets bigger. So he starts with 4 range because he's ranged. And then on the next turn he gets 5 range. And then on the next turn he gets 6 range. So this is something you can just spawn in a corner and then just attack literally the other side of the map as time goes on. This is like one of the bigger problems. And it's very easy to then forget how much range he has as time goes on. And you think you're out of range, but you're not. And also, because he gains range, he then outranges other ranged units. So other ranged units have 4 range. Whereas, you know, on the first turn that he attacks, he goes up to 5 range. And then suddenly, you know, he's got 5 range. So if he attacks you from max range, you don't hit him back. And with that 3 damage, you know, that's pretty goddamn nice. I don't like it. I think it's a little bit, I don't know. I think it's too strong. I think I don't think he should start with 4 base range if he's gaining range every turn, because that's where it starts to become a problem. Then we have Ao Kuang, which is one of our gods. He is colossal and gains damage as time goes on. Ability, teleport to a tile while leaving behind an illusion with taunt. So I'm assuming the illusion would have the same stats as him, but basically it makes like a fake Ao Kuang. But I'm wondering if the fake Ao Kuang with taunt doesn't deal any damage. I'm imagining that it won't deal damage because it's an illusion, you know, that doesn't really make any sense. But you can basically like put him down and then teleport him away. So move him to wherever you want him on the map and leave behind, you know, something that's got taunt. So this is one of the interesting ways of Chinese incorporating taunt into their deck other than Xiao Fang or the taunt card. And it remains to be seen how strong this is. This is kind of like a getting towards the later game kind of card. I think he looks pretty tough though. And then last but not least, we have the legendary Sun Wukong. And I really can't tell you how I feel about this because I have absolutely no idea what his animal forms are. But he is a 6/7 for 6 cost. So even ignoring the fact that he's got these animal forms, I think he's going to be a really strong card. I mean, he's legendary, so you've got to kind of expect it. But it's not something I've found out about or played into. And I really do think that one of the things Hi-Rez need to work on is their keywords so that it's a bit clearer how some of these cards work. But, you know, if you know how it works, let me know in the comments below because I actually have no idea. I don't even own him, so that's probably part of the problem. Maybe I should craft him, you know. I can't afford to. But yeah, that's more or less it for the patch. These are our Chinese cards. Those are our patch changes. And I think it's a really fun Pantheon. I think, you know, even though it's got fewer cards than the other Pantheons, there's definitely some nice synergies going on, especially with these cards and some of the neutral cards. And I think they're going to have to be careful adding items to the neutral pool, just how, you know, that affects them. Especially stuff like, I mean, beads, for example, is an item, and it refreshes the cooldown of your gods. So then Chang'e could shoot again. Hu Yi could bounce again. And then any kind of command minions would also get buffed. So it's like all this kind of crazy chain attacks. And I like it. I like it, you guys. But speaking of liking things, if you've enjoyed this overview, if you have any thoughts or opinions, you can hit that thumbs up button, guys. And let me know what you think of the patch in the comments below. You know, beyond that, we should have a beginner Chinese deck, which is this deck here, actually, coming out tomorrow. So keep an eye on the channel for that. I was going to say keep your eyes peeled, but the idea of peeling your eyes just, I don't know, it's a bit gross. Maybe don't peel your eyes. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed the content, then you can always hit that subscribe button. Beyond that, you can find me live streaming card games, including Smite Tactics and Gwent at twitch.tv/Jaggerus. Or if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Jaggerus, and I'll also link my Discord down below if you want to join us on Discord. That's a very easy place to find me, just if you want to. Beyond that, have a great day. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye!